Football has always been more than just a game. It has always been a language, a form of expression, something that connects people across cultures, generations, and continents. And throughout its history, it has given us players who seemed larger than life, players who carried the weight of expectation and still found a way to rise above it. But every so often, someone appears who transcends even that. Someone who doesn't just play the game, but reshapes it, redefines it, and leaves behind something that cannot be replicated. And for millions of people around the world, that figure was Lionel Messi, a player whose story goes far beyond goals, far beyond trophies, far beyond statistics. Because what made Messi truly unique was not just what he achieved, but how he achieved it, and everything he had to overcome along the way. To understand Messi, you have to go back to the beginning, not to the stadiums filled with thousands of people, not to the Champions League nights or World Cup finals, but to Rosario, a city in Argentina where football is part of everyday life, where kids grow up with the ball at their feet, where dreams are built on dusty streets and small local pitches. And it was there, on June 24, 1987, that Lionel Andrés Messi was born into a family that, like many others, lived a modest life, far from luxury, far from privilege, but rich in something far more important: support, discipline, and belief. From a very early age, it became clear that Messi's relationship with football was different. Not because he was louder or more dominant than the other kids, but because of the way he moved, the way he understood the game, the way he reacted instinctively to situations that others had to think about. And when he joined his first local team, coached by his own father, it didn't take long for people to notice that this wasn't just another talented child. There was something deeper, something almost unexplainable in the way he controlled the ball, in the way he navigated through defenders, in the way he seemed to always be one step ahead. At the age of 8, Messi joined Newell's Old Boys, one of Argentina's most respected youth systems, and it was there that his abilities truly began to shine, dominating games with a style that was both simple and extraordinary, combining close control, balance, vision, and an almost unnatural ability to read the game. But while his talent continued to grow, something else began to emerge, something that would soon become the greatest obstacle of his life. Because at just 11 years old, Messi was diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency, a condition that would significantly affect his physical development. And in a sport where physicality often plays a major role, this diagnosis could have ended everything before it even began. The treatment required daily injections and came at a cost that was far beyond what his family could afford. And for a moment, it seemed like the dream was slipping away, not because of a lack of talent, not because of a lack of effort, but because of circumstances beyond his control. And this is where Messi's story begins to separate itself from others. Because while many would have accepted the situation, while many dreams would have ended there, Messi's story took a different path, one shaped by persistence, sacrifice, and a moment of belief that would change everything. Barcelona, a club known for its philosophy and commitment to developing talent, saw something in Messi that others overlooked. And after a trial that reportedly lasted only minutes before the decision was made, the club offered him a contract, famously signed on a napkin. And more importantly, they agreed to cover the cost of his medical treatment, giving him not just an opportunity, but a chance to survive in the sport. And at just 13 years old, Messi made the life-changing decision to leave Argentina, leaving behind everything he knew, his friends, his extended family, his culture, to move to Spain and begin a new life. Adapting to a new country, a new language, a new system was not easy, especially for someone so young and reserved. And there were moments of doubt, moments where the weight of the decision became overwhelming. But within the structure of La Masia, Barcelona's youth academy, Messi found something that allowed him to grow, not just as a player, but as a person. Because La Masia was not just about football, it was about education, about discipline, about understanding the game in a deeper way. And within that environment, Messi developed the qualities that would later define his career: intelligence, composure, and a unique connection with the ball. Pressed through the ranks, consistently outperforming expectations, adapting his game as his body developed, and proving that his early promise was not just potential, but reality. until in 2004, at the age of 17, he made his official debut for Barcelona's first team, becoming one of the youngest players to ever play in La Liga. And while that moment may not have seemed extraordinary at the time, it marked the beginning of a journey that would go on to redefine modern football. Messi's rise was not instant, but it was inevitable. As season after season, he became more involved, more influential, more central to the team. And as Barcelona entered a period of transformation under Pep Guardiola, Messi reached a level that few players in history have ever achieved, becoming the focal point of a system that prioritized movement, positioning, and intelligence. And alongside players like Xavi and Iniesta, Messi helped create a style of football that was not just effective, but beautiful. A style that dominated opponents and redefined what success looked like in the sport. During this period, Messi's individual achievements became almost secondary to his influence on the game. But even so, they were impossible to ignore. Multiple Ballon d'Or awards, countless records, and performances that left fans and analysts searching for comparisons that didn't exist. And perhaps the most symbolic of these achievements came in 2012, when Messi scored 91 goals in a single calendar year, breaking a record that had stood for decades and setting a benchmark that may never be reached again. Yet despite all of this success, despite all of this dominance, there remained a question that followed Messi throughout his career: his legacy with the Argentine national team. Because while he had conquered Europe, the expectations in Argentina were different, shaped by history, by culture, by the legacy of players like Diego Maradona. And for years, despite reaching finals, despite coming close, Messi was unable to deliver the one thing that seemed to matter most: a major international trophy. The 2014 World Cup in Brazil represented the closest he had come, leading Argentina to the final with performances that combined leadership and brilliance, only to fall short against Germany in a match that could have changed everything. And the image of Messi walking past the World Cup trophy, unable to touch it, became one of the most powerful symbols of his career. Not of failure, but of how close he had come, and how far he still felt from completion. The years that followed were filled with similar patterns, reaching finals in the Copa America, only to fall short again, facing criticism that questioned not just his ability, but his character, his leadership, his place in history. And for a moment, it became too much, leading to his temporary retirement from international football, a decision that reflected the emotional weight he had been carrying for years. But what separates legends from others is not their ability to avoid failure, but their ability to respond to it. And Messi returned, not driven by the need to prove others wrong, but by something deeper, a desire to complete the story, to fulfill a journey that had been defined as much by its struggles as its successes. And in 2021, that journey reached a turning point, as Messi led Argentina to victory in the Copa America, finally securing the international title that had eluded him for so long. And then came the final chapter, the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, a tournament that carried a sense of finality, a sense that this would be Messi's last opportunity to achieve the one thing missing from his career. And this time, everything aligned, not perfectly, but meaningfully, as Argentina faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but continued to move forward, guided by a version of Messi that had evolved beyond individual brilliance into complete leadership. The final against France was not just a match, it was a culmination of everything Messi's career had represented: pressure, expectation, resilience. And when it ended, with Argentina lifting the trophy, it wasn't just a victory, it was a moment of completion. A moment where everything that had come before finally made sense, where the story that began in Rosario found its ending at the highest level of the sport. And yet, even with that ending, Messi's story does not feel complete in the traditional sense, because what he represents goes beyond titles, beyond records, beyond moments. It represents a way of understanding football, a way of understanding greatness, not as something that is given, but as something that is built, slowly, through effort, through persistence, through overcoming obstacles that cannot be seen from the outside.
Because in the end,
What defines Lionel Messi is not just what the world saw, but everything it didn't see. The struggles, the doubts, the sacrifices, the moments where the outcome was uncertain, and the decision to continue anyway. And that is why his story resonates so deeply, not just with football fans, but with anyone who has ever faced uncertainty, who has ever doubted their path, who has ever had to keep going without knowing where it would lead. And that is why, when we look back, we don't just see a player, we see a journey. A story that reminds us that greatness is not about perfection, it is about resilience, it is about persistence, it is about continuing forward even when the path is unclear. Because Lionel Messi didn't just play football, he changed it.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, it really means a lot. Your support helps keep this journey alive. Make sure to check out my latest video. I promise it's worth your time. And if you haven't already, subscribe and stay with me for the next story.